6 days of creation, or billions of years of evolution. Humans made from dust, or sharing a common ancestor with apes. This seems like an uncompromising war between the Bible and science. People say you have to pick a side, but is that really the case? Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're stepping onto one of the most famous battlegrounds in the dialogue between science and religion, a place where the two sides seem completely irreconcilable, the debate between the theory of evolution and the biblical creation story. I'm sure all of us have witnessed this scene, maybe in a biology class, an online debate, or within our own private thoughts. On one side is science, with mountains of evidence from fossils and genetics, asserting that life on Earth, including humans, is the result of an evolutionary process spanning billions of years. On the other side is the Bible, with the opening chapters of Genesis solemnly describing God creating the universe and all living things in just 6 days. These two pictures look incredibly different, even directly contradictory. One talks about billions of years, the other about 6 days. One talks about survival of the fittest and random mutation, the other about a perfect plan and purposeful creation. So, are we forced to choose one and reject the other? Is there a way for a person to believe in God and also accept the discoveries of modern science without feeling like they're contradicting themselves? Today, we're not going to try to prove which side wins. Instead, we'll try to find a path of reconciliation, a bridge to connect these two seemingly distant worlds. Before we can reconcile, we have to properly understand the nature of each side and avoid attacking the straw men that people often set up. Let's understand the opponent before we debate. What is the theory of evolution, and what is Genesis really about? First, let's talk about the theory of evolution. Many people mistakenly think evolution is simply humans came from monkeys. This is a massive oversimplification. At its core, biological evolution is a well-substantiated scientific theory that explains the diversity of life on Earth. It includes two main ideas. First is common ancestry. All living organisms share a common ancestor. Imagine life as a giant tree. We and chimpanzees are not father and son, but two nearby branches that share a common ancestor branch further back in the past. Second is natural selection. This is the main mechanism driving evolution. Within a population, there are random genetic variations. Individuals with variations that help them better adapt to their environment are more likely to survive and reproduce, thus passing on those beneficial genes to the next generation. Over millions of years, these small changes accumulate and can lead to the formation of new species. It's crucial to emphasize, evolution is a scientific theory. It describes the physical mechanism, the how of life's development. It does not, nor does it aim to, answer questions about who or why. It can't tell you the purpose of life or whether there is a creator behind this process. Those are questions that lie outside the scope of natural science. Now let's turn to the creation story in Genesis, chapters 1 and 2. This is the most critical point. The biggest mistake that causes conflict is when people read Genesis as if it were a 21st century science textbook. If we force it to answer questions about astrophysics or molecular biology, it will certainly fail. So, what kind of literature is Genesis? Biblical scholars point out that this is a theological text written in a poetic and purposeful prose style. Its purpose is not to answer the question, how did God mechanically create the universe, but to answer questions that were far deeper and more important to the ancient Hebrews and to us today. Who created everything? A single, powerful, and good God. Why did he create it? Out of his free will and love, not from a chaotic battle between gods. What is the nature of this world? And what is humanity's place in it? The answer is, we are the pinnacle of creation, made in God's image, with inherent dignity and responsibility. When we understand the purpose of each side, one describing the how mechanism, the other proclaiming theological truths about the who and why, we begin to see that they don't have to be in conflict. They are answering different kinds of questions, just as a cookbook and a poem about a family meal don't contradict each other. So how can we make this harmony concrete? There are a few interpretations proposed by theologians and scientists of faith that help build a bridge between these two worldviews. First is the day-age theory. This is one of the most popular and oldest attempts at reconciliation. This theory suggests that the word day, Hebrew yom, in Genesis 1 doesn't necessarily mean a 24-hour period. In many other parts of the Bible, day is also used to refer to a long, undefined period of time. According to this interpretation, the 6 days of creation are actually 6 long ages or eras. What's interesting is that, if read this way, the sequence of creation in Genesis shows a remarkable parallel to the sequence discovered by science. Day 1, the appearance of light, corresponds to the Big Bang and the formation of photons. Day 2, the formation of the sky, separating the waters, corresponds to the formation of the atmosphere and oceans on early Earth. Day 3, dry land appears and plant life, corresponds to the formation of continents and the first photosynthetic life. Day 4, heavenly bodies become clearly visible from Earth. The sun and moon become distinct as the atmosphere clears. Day 5, sea creatures and flying creatures, corresponds to the Cambrian explosion and the appearance of fish, then insects and birds. Day 6, land animals and humans, corresponds to the appearance of mammals and finally humankind. This approach helps resolve the time frame conflict directly. However, some argue that it still tries to force the Bible into a scientific mold a bit awkwardly. Now, let's look at another idea, the literary framework theory. This interpretation is more nuanced. It proposes that the 6-day structure in Genesis is not a chronological sequence, but a purposeful literary framework. The author arranged God's creative works in a symmetrical and logical pattern to emphasize theological truths. Look at this structure. For the first 3 days, God creates the realms or domains. Day 1, the realm of time, light and darkness. Day 2, the realm of space, sky and sea. Day 3, the realm of life, land and vegetation. For the next 3 days, God fills those realms with their rulers. Day 4, rulers of time, sun, moon, stars. Day 5, rulers of space, birds and fish. Day 6, rulers of life, land animals and humans. In this view, the author's purpose wasn't to write a scientific diary. The purpose was to show a God of order who transforms the initial formless and empty chaos into a structured, beautiful, and vibrant world. The 7th day, the day of rest, is the climax, showing that God is not a tired worker, but a king reigning over his perfect kingdom. This interpretation frees Genesis from the constraints of a strict scientific timeline and allows us to focus on its profound theological message. Finally, there's the view most widely accepted in mainstream Christian academia and by many scientists of faith today. This is theistic evolution, also known as evolutionary creation. This view fully accepts the findings of modern science, including the theory of evolution and the age of the universe being billions of years. However, it asserts that this process is not purposeless or random. Instead, evolution is the very mechanism, the tool, that God used to carry out his work of creation. Imagine God as a genius programmer. Instead of having to manually draw every pixel on the screen, he writes incredibly sophisticated and elegant foundational code, the laws of physics, chemistry, and biology. Then he hits run, and from those laws, a complex universe, a diverse ecosystem, and finally, conscious human beings emerge and develop over billions of years. In this view, God is not a God of the gaps who only steps in where science hasn't yet found an explanation. On the contrary, he is the all-powerful and all-knowing creator who governs the entire process, from the Big Bang down to the smallest genetic mutation. His creation wasn't a one-week event, but a grand symphony played out over billions of years, and we are living in its magnificent notes. This interpretation honors both the greatness of God and the beauty and integrity of scientific discovery. Whichever of these three paths to reconciliation you choose, the most important thing is to realize that arguing over 6 days versus billions of years can make us miss the revolutionary and beautiful message that Genesis wants to convey, especially in its historical context. When Genesis was written, the Hebrews were surrounded by Mesopotamian and Egyptian cultures with their own creation stories. Those stories often told that the world was born from a brutal war between gods. The sun, moon, and stars were powerful deities that needed to be worshipped and appeased. Humans were created as slaves to do the hard labor for the gods. Against that backdrop, Genesis 1 rings out as a revolutionary declaration. No, there is only one God, and He is good. No, the universe was not created from violence, but from God's peaceful and powerful word. No, the sun and moon are not gods. They are merely lights that God created to serve the earth. This is a radical act of the desacralization of nature. And most importantly, no, humans are not slaves. Humans are created in the image of God. This is an unimaginable dignity. We are invited to be His representatives, the stewards of His creation. When we understand this, we see that the core message of Genesis is not threatened by the theory of evolution. In fact, it can even be deepened. The idea that God used a long, elegant, and creative process like evolution to ultimately bring forth beings who could know Him, love each other, and contemplate the beauty of the universe is perhaps even more awe-inspiring than creating everything in an instant. So, can evolution and the creation story coexist? My answer is a resounding yes. The conflict is not really between science and faith, but between a rigid, literalistic reading of the Bible and a scientific worldview that refuses to acknowledge anything beyond the material. Both show us aspects of the truth. Science, through the lens of evolution, gives us a breathtaking picture of the history of life and the deep interconnectedness of all living things. The Bible, through the story of creation, reveals to us a loving creator and the purpose and dignity of human beings. They are not two competing stories, but two different maps for the same territory of reality. One map shows the roads, and the other shows the treasure. Don't let the fear of conflict stop you from exploring the beauty of both. Read science with an open mind, and read the Bible with a heart that seeks meaning. You might be surprised to find that, instead of excluding each other, they can enrich and illuminate one another, painting a picture of the universe and our place in it that is far grander and more amazing than we ever imagined. What do you think of these paths to reconciliation? Is there an approach you find more convincing than others, or do you still have questions and concerns? Please share your thoughts in the comments, because this is a conversation where we can all learn from each other. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for listening and thinking along with me. See you on our next journey of discovery.